Hey, how's it going, guys? In this tutorial, we'll learn how to use Salesforce REST API in Python. So Salesforce is probably the biggest CIM system today, and by using Salesforce REST API, we can automate and streamline many different Salesforce workflow and tasks. Now let's learn how to use Salesforce REST API. Alright, so first we need to log into our Salesforce account. So this is my Salesforce homepage. Then I want to go to Setup. Now in the search field on the left hand side, so here we want to search for apps. Now on the build create, we want to click on apps. Now on the apps page, we want to scroll down to connected apps. So here I'm going to create a new app. So basically we need to create a connected app to allow Python or different applications to communicate with Salesforce REST API. Now here for the app, I'm going to name the app. Let's do Salesforce REST Demo. Then press tab to auto-populate the API name. Now for the contact email, simply just provide an email address, and it can be any email address. Alright, so if you want to scroll down and make sure that you check this enable all auth settings option. And from there, we need to configure the callback URL. Alright, so for the callback URL, I'm going to simply type https localhost.com. Now I want to scroll down to select the OAuth scopes. So these are just different permission sets. And for demonstration purpose, I'm going to provide this app with full permission. So here I'm going to leave everything else as default. Alright, so that's going to be everything we need to provide on this page. Now click on Save to save the settings. Now here I want to click on Continue to go to the next step. Now here, simply review the information to make sure that everything you provided is accurate. Now let's go to the next step, which is to configure the, configure the OAuth 2.0 setting. Alright, so let me go back to the previous page, and I said I went too fast. Alright, so on the connected apps information page, want to click on Manage. Then click on Edit Policies. So by default, when we look at this OAuth policies section, for the permitted users setting, so the setting is set to all users may self-authorize. And that just means that you don't need to have the system admin to approve your access. Now for the IP relaxation, so here I want to set this option to relax IP restrictions for activated devices. So what I'll do is, so basically in Salesforce, there's a layer of security that is going to look at your PC's IP address to check if the IP address is on the safe list. And by setting the policy to relax IP restrictions for activated devices, we don't have to worry about the IP range restriction. Alright, so that's going to be everything I need to update on this page. Now save. Alright, so we're almost finished with the setup. Now here I want to go back to the app again. I'm going to search for apps and go back to apps. Actually, we can go to connected apps this time under manage apps. And here I'm going to click on the Salesforce REST Demo app. And it was just the app that is created. And that just now takes me to the OAuth configuration page. Alright, so in that case, let me go back. I'll search for apps again, and I'll click on apps. Alright, so scroll down to the connected apps section, and I'll click on Salesforce REST Demo. Now on the app details page, so here I want to click on Manage Consumer Details button. Now here I need to provide my verification code. Now copy the consumer key and the consumer secret to somewhere safe. And for demonstration purpose, I'm going to save the client secret and consumer key to a Python file called consumerdetails.py. So you'll have to create this file manually, And basically, you just need to create a file and create these 4 variables and provide the consumer key, consumer secret, your username, and password. And somehow, if someone was able to get a hold of the consumer key and consumer secret, in that case, you can click on generate to create a new set of consumer key and consumer secret. Now, that's everything we need to do to set up the connected app in Salesforce. Now, create a blank Python script, and I'll name the script demo.py. And for this tutorial, I'll show you how to generate an access token. Then I'll show you 2 examples on how to run a SOQL query, as well as how to retrieve an app.js metadata. Alright, so from the import statement, I'm going to import the requests library. And you can install the library using the command pip install requests. And for my consumer details.py file, I'm going to import the 4 variables: consumer key, consumer secret, username, and password. And to manage the data, I'll be using pandas library. And you can install the library using the command pip install pandas. Alright, so to generate an access token, we need to, first of all, I'm going to create a variable. I'll name the variable domain. And it's going to be the Salesforce base URL, your domain URL basically. And it's going to be this portion right here. So simply copy this URL portion and assign the string to the domain variable. And next, I'm going to create a dictionary. I'll name the dictionary payload. And inside the dictionary, we need to provide, here, let me just copy and paste my notes. And inside the dictionary, we need to set the grant type to password. And for the client ID, this is going to be a consumer key. Client secret is going to be consumer secret, username, and password. And to generate the access token, I'm going to create a variable called OAuth endpoint. And it's going to be the endpoint address pointing to the OAuth2 token address. Then we need to make a post request. So from requests.post method, I'm going to concatenate my Salesforce domain URL along with the OAuth endpoint. Then I'll provide my credential to the data parameter. Now, if I go ahead and run this code block, now if I print the response object, and it's going to return a status code 200, and that just means that my API code is successful, and I can print the status code attribute, and that will also return 200. Now, to retrieve the access token, from the response object, we want to run the JSON method, and that's going to return a dictionary. So here, this access token is going to be the key to allow your application to connect to your Salesforce org. Now here, I'm going to convert this code block to a function, and I'll name this function. Let's do generate token. And this function is going to return the JSON output. So here I'm going to create a variable. Let's do token. Actually, let's do access token. And I'll call this a generate token function. So we know the generate token function is going to return this output right here. And from the output, I want to reference the access token key. Right, so here let me create a function and run the function. Now if I print the access token variable, so this is going to be the access token that I'll be using to connect to my Salesforce org. Now I want to go to Salesforce REST API documentation real quick. And you can find the link in the description below. Now let's look at this reference section. So here are all different things that we can do with Salesforce REST API. So for example, for this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to run a SOQL query, as well as how to retrieve an app.js metadata. So if we look at this list right here, so right here under query, so this is going to be the URI endpoint that we're going to use to make a request call to make a SOQL query. And by default, the API can only return up to 2000 records at a time. And if your query returns more than 2000 records, they will need to pass this next record's URL key to the API call, which I'll show you in a second. And some of the things that we can also do, which is to retrieve different quick actions, or we can create records using quick actions by running the quick action REST API call. Now I'm looking for the SOQL metadata endpoint. Let me take a look. Right, so it should be somewhere here. It's object basic information. Now if I expand the folder, and here's the URI address to retrieve an object's metadata. And this method only has one parameter called SObject. Right, so let's go back to our Python script. So here I want to create headers object, and it's going to be a dictionary. Now to authenticate our API calls, we need to provide the access token to the authorization key. And the value is going to be bear space plus the access token. Alright, so let me go ahead and create a headers object. Now to make a SOQL query using Python and Salesforce REST API. So here I create a function called query. And it looks like not locate the domain URL. Alright, so I'll put this constants outside the function. I'll put that right here. And I'll create the domain variable again. Now let's look at the function first. Now inside the function, so this is going to be the endpoint to pointing to the query method. And because we can only return up to 2000 records per API call, so first I need to make a GET request. And I'll pass the SOQL query argument to the queue parameter. And here we can specify the parameters using the parameters field. And to pass the SOQL query, so basically we need to create a dictionary, and we'll set the key as queue, and the value is going to be the SOQL statement. And from the response, we can reference the JSON method to return the output. And from the output, we can reference the total size key to figure out the total record size from the SOQL query. And the records key is going to contain the records in a list. And here, I'm storing every single record in this records list. So here I create empty records list first. Now in case, if we have additional records that we need to retrieve, so from the JSON output, we can use this down key to validate if there are additional records that we need to retrieve. And the endpoint looks like this. So we'll provide the domain, the SOQL query endpoint, and if there are additional records that we need to retrieve, then the response is going to create the next record's URL, in which we need to make another request code based on the domain name, followed by the endpoint, followed by the next record's URL. And make sure that you also provide the headers as well. And this line here is going to return the result as a dictionary. And inside the dictionary, we have the record size and the records itself. Alright, so let me go ahead and create a function. Now let's say I want to, here, let's call this records. Now let's say I want to query all my opportunity records. So I'll say I want to return the ID, name, and maybe opportunity type from the opportunity object. Now if I go ahead and run this line here, and if I print the records object, and that's going to return the dictionary from the function itself. And here you can figure out the record size by referencing the record size key. And from the SOQL query, 32 records are returned. And to retrieve the records, so here I can reference the records key. And that's going to return a list. Inside the list, here let's look at the first record. And from each record, we have a dictionary. Right, so here's the ID value, and the name value, and the type value. So one thing I like to do is I like to convert the data set as a data frame object to allow me to quickly manage the information. All right, so I'll name the data frame object df. If I print the df object, and that's going to convert the list as a table. And that makes the data manipulation and transformation a lot easier. Now let's look at the second example, which is to retrieve an object's metadata. Alright, so I created another function called retrieve object metadata. And this function will take the object's API name. And to retrieve an object's metadata, we are going to make a GET request. Alright, so if we go back to the documentation, if we look at the URI endpoint, we need to make an API code to this endpoint, except that we need to swap this object variable, which is going to be the parameter, to the object's API name. Alright, so here I'm going to create a variable called object ID. Now let's say I want to retrieve the account's object's metadata. Now from the retrieve object metadata function, I'll pass the object's API name. And let me go ahead and create the function first. And for the output, I'm going to name the output. Let's do object metadata. And I'll go ahead and run these two lines to create the object metadata object. Now if I go ahead and print the object metadata object, now here we have this dictionary object that contains a lot of information. And to narrow down the information that I want to retrieve, so here we can print the keys. Now if we look at the keys, so all these are the things that we can retrieve from the metadata object. Now for example, if I simply just want to know what fields this accounts object has, so in that case I'll reference the fields key, which is right here. And that returns the columns metadata. Now again, I'll use pandas library to manage the data set. And let's call this df underscore metadata. And if I print the data frame object, my accounts object has 76 columns. I can export the information. Let's export the information to a CSV file. So I can use the toCSV method. And I'll name the file. Let's do account metadata information.csv. And I'll ignore the index. And I'll go ahead and export the dataset to a CSV. And if I go to my project folder, and here's the CSV file. Now let me open the file so you can take a look what the content looks like. Now from this table here, we have all sorts of information, such as whether or not if the column is a dependent pick list, what's the digits. And one field I use a lot is this name field or name column, which tells me the column's API name. And if I want to know the column label, I think that'll be on the label column. Let me just do a search. And it's right here. So under the label column, so these are the columns label that you can take a look individually, followed by the column size. So this is going to be everything I'm going to cover in this video, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. And I'll post the source code in the description below so you can take a look. And don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.